Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James Strong, joined once again by my co-host Cody Tanner, all the way from Texas via Tennessee and other places in between. How you doing this wonderful Monday evening, Cody?
Oh, James, I'm doing fantastic. It seems that I'm just traveling all over the world nowadays, which is just hilarious because it sounds like I'm made of money and I'm really, really not. But I'm doing a lot. I am getting out there doing a lot. There's a pretty little lady that likes to travel, is doing some stuff. She starts her internship with Amazon, your proud provider of Thursday Night Football, which we'll get into that conversation later. But yeah, she starts her internship there. So she was moving into an Airbnb for 3 months, paid for by Amazon. So I went down, flew down, helped her out, surprised her, and we made a good weekend out of it. I saw Nashville for the first time in my life, home of the Tennessee Titans. Was a fun time. Got to see Broadway, got to see a lot of crazy drunk people, and a lot of just friendly people. It was nice.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the times those kinds of events, and I mean, you think even sporting events as well, you think a lot of jerks and drunk people and being stupid. Nah, I didn't see much of that at all. So it was a good time. Great weekend. Great weekend. For those listening or watching the podcast, I'm officially off the market. Sorry, not sorry. See you later. Maybe shouldn't have said that. I don't know if I was allowed to yet or not, or if I should have. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyways, we're gonna move on.
Do we need to start over?
No, we're gonna keep it going. Okay. She can fight me later. Listen, it's not like people we know really listen to this. It's all other people. It's all the people that care about the Steelers. They're here for the Steelers. They're not here for my love life. James, how are you on this lovely Monday?
Doing fantastic. Still married, so still off the market.
You're doing better than me. Well, kind of. You understand.
Hey, you're doing just fine, buddy.
Oh, I know.
You know who else is doing just fine? A young man by the name of Manny Jones, former defensive end of the Arizona Cardinals, was released by the Cardinals. The Steelers claimed him off waivers. They said, we're not taking any chances. We want this guy in Pittsburgh. It definitely had something to do with defensive lineman Renell Wren getting injured and being placed on injured reserve. But Manny Jones appears to be a defensive end type in about that 6'3", 280 range.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, we love that. Manny went from Pittsburgh East or Pittsburgh West back to original Pittsburgh East. If anyone doesn't understand that reference, that's just what people call Arizona is Pittsburgh West, because they just always take our players, our coaches, everything else. So,
yeah, and a lot of former players end up coaching down there too. So, very, very dynamic connection between the two cities, no doubt about that. But yeah, interesting to see. He's a highly athletic dude for how big he is. 4'9", 40-yard dash. You don't see that too often on a 280-pound cat. So. We'll be interested to see how he looks in the preseason. Hopefully he gets a chance to get a little burn there. You showing your 40-yard dash there, Cody?
Yeah, slow-mo style. Slow-mo.
Wow.
Not to clarify. Yeah, I run a little bit faster than this.
Speaking of 40-yard dashes and
let's
people
talk
that
about
are good at it, let's talk about Hakeem Butler, officially a Pittsburgh Steeler, one of the top performing wide receivers in the XFL this most recent season that just finished up. Had 8 touchdown catches.
That's more than Deontay Johnson in, I think, the last 2 seasons. So that's fantastic.
Is that more in his entire career, maybe? I don't know.
Shots fired. Moving on. Pittsburgh did also release cornerback Ahkello Witherspoon, which was a surprising move. A lot of people did make connections to this. I know you're excited. It does bode well for Corey Trice Jr., the rookie that was signed.
Let's go.
So we'll see what happens there. But a lot of people were making the accusations or like trying to read ahead and say that this was saving $3 million in the cap space or cap hit. But is this making room for someone like Quan Alexander? Yes, no, maybe so. Have seen no updates on that last I've seen. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But $3 million is a good cap space to at this stage in the offseason to be saving. So
yeah. Absolutely. And Quan left without a contract. So you have to feel like maybe Pittsburgh lowballed him because you don't bring him in unless you're thinking you're going to offer a contract. Yeah. So I can't imagine that they just didn't offer one at all. But yeah, regardless, they didn't make it happen.
They could have seen something they didn't like, whether it was his physique or maybe they did some strength tests or drills or whatever it was.
Yeah, maybe he catch up on his steak, and they said, you know what, that doesn't fly here.
And maybe the roles didn't match up. Maybe the roles that they wanted him to come in and be a leader, in a young linebacker crew, they wanted him to come in and be the veteran leader, maybe not starting. I don't know. Something didn't match up there. Maybe they didn't offer him. Maybe they did lowball him. We'll wait and see what happens. Unfortunately, we'll never know. We weren't in the room where it happened. So that's just the way that it's going to be, unfortunately. But we have more news about current players not getting released. James?
Yeah, and another move made by the Steelers to create even more cap space. Mitchell Trubisky got himself a 2-year contract extension. They reworked the one remaining year on the deal, which makes the new 3-year deal, including this upcoming season, a 3-year, $19.65 million total contract. Which could actually total out at $33 million with all the incentives and bonuses available. I'm sure he would have to play a lot for that. I'm sure that is not likely to happen. But you know what? That does mean that he is comfortable with the role of number 2 quarterback. And you could do a lot worse than Mitchell Trubisky as your number 2 quarterback. And the fact that they were able to free up another $4 million in cap space by doing so, that was $7 million in those 2 moves. So you got to really enjoy seeing that. And you wonder, does this mean the Alex Highsmith extension is impending? It might be right around the corner here.
Yeah, you got to ask that question. You got to wonder it. Alex Highsmith could potentially be the next guy that they extend a contract to, and that would be perfect because that's what we want. He is He's starting caliber, especially when you put him on the same defense as the guys like Cam Hayward and TJ Watt, all these guys. But the Steelers also went ahead and made some moves on the offensive side of the ball by signing offensive tackle 2022 undrafted free agent, more specifically offensive tackle Dylan Cook. 6'6", 308 pounds. He has 33.5-inch long arms. Ran a 5.09 40-yard dash. So
that's not bad for a tackle. Not bad at all.
At 308 pounds, Ryan.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
Yeah,
that's
nice,
probably how fast I'd run one. So.
Yeah. I don't know that I'd do any better than that right now.
No. I might break 5, but it'd be by a hair.
Yeah. I would probably not break 5.
I'd have to wear less clothes than they do.
Ooh.
Aerodynamic.
Don't wear much, Cody.
Aerodynamic.
Spandex might make you more aerodynamic, buddy.
Fair. Speedos exist, my guy. Speedos exist.
Yeah, no doubt. That's basically all they wear when they run it. So, but interesting thing about Mr. Dylan Cook, he does have 1 year in the NFL already, but he was just on the practice squad, I believe, for Tampa Bay last season. This is a former quarterback. Started his college career as a quarterback. And then decided, you know what, I think offensive line is a better fit for me, put on a bunch of weight, and played a right tackle. So experience at right tackle, but plus athleticism and decent length. So might be able to play both sides. I would imagine they'll try him on both sides, left and right.
Yeah,
and see
why
what
not?
He's most comfortable at. Yeah.
Well, why not? Why the heck not? Maybe you can line him up there.
Mason better be buying him some lunches and dinners because he's going to be blocking for him in the 3rd and 4th quarter of these preseason games.
Line him up as an extra offensive lineman, make him eligible, let him come back for an end around, let him throw the ball. It's just developing some trick plays. I love it. Line him up as a quarterback if you want. We'll get to that later, but the things you can do with a 3rd quarterback nowadays. But we will get to all that again later. Steelers then went on a releasing rampage. They released running back Master Teague, who's a guy that James and I have talked a lot about. Had a pretty decent preseason last year. Linebacker Tay Crowder. Another linebacker by
Emeka.
Yep.
Emeka
Egbule. See,
I got you.
And then they also, after those 3 moves, signed a linebacker tryout player by the name of Toby Ndukwe.
Yeah. Interesting thing about Toby, really good athletic profile, a 6'1", 237-pound kid. A 4'7", 340 is pretty decent for a linebacker. 33 and 3/4-inch arms is excellent length for a guy that size. 36.5-inch vert, 10.6 on his broad, and 28 reps on the bench. So pretty athletic dude, pretty strong, pretty explosive. Good first step. So interested to see where he lines up. It's kind of unclear as to whether or not he's an edge or an off ball. for Pittsburgh. By the size, I would say probably more an off-ball linebacker, but that's really good explosiveness on those first few steps and good strength too. So
Yeah.
I'm interested. That's got my interest.
Got my interest too as well, James. It's one of those guys that you never know could come in and be just a stud. So we'll keep an eye on him in the preseason for sure, and training camp, I should say more specifically. Well, let's be real. They don't have to do a cut down until the end, so he's gonna probably get some snaps.
Yeah, he should.
So NFL passes a new rule. We'll get into this real quick. Snap. Why are you snapping? Snap count?
Because he's gonna get some snaps.
James, you're a genius. Love it. He's going to get some snaps. You can't hear mine. Whatever. NFL did pass a new rule that Thursday night football games can be flexed. Now, what that means is just like Sunday. Yeah, it's gross. Just like Sunday games can sometimes be flexed. You see this happen more due to potential weather or inclement weather situations like that, or
and playoff
implications
at the end of the season.
Yep, playoff implications 100% can sometimes change a game from a 1 o'clock game to a primetime game. If it's two teams that are fighting for a playoff spot, why not put them on primetime? If you have, let's say, the Cleveland Browns taking on the Indianapolis Colts, it's just not worth watching that kind of game. Sorry, foreshadowing to how their seasons are going to go. I don't know how I feel about it. It's rough. It's rough.
Pittsburgh voted against this, to be 100% transparent, and I see why, because if you have a game scheduled for Thursday, that really screws everything up on your planning to all of a sudden have it pushed back to Sunday. So I see why they voted against it, because it could heavily impact them this upcoming season, but it doesn't matter because the NFL passed it. So could really throw some monkey wrenches in their plans as far as game planning, days off, rest days, what you do on certain days, travel days. Everything could be screwed up on this. So hopefully neither one of the Steelers Thursday night games get flexed, although I would rather have them on Sundays. But
you just don't want to see that. You just don't want to see Pittsburgh or any team you're a fan of get flexed to a Thursday game from a Sunday game, because that is rough. For sure, because these players have different things in motion. They have different schedules, and whether it's recovering from an injury or just their weight training habits, nutrition, everything gets changed, and people don't realize how much goes into that. But there is absolutely a lot. They also changed another rule, James.
Yeah, and I really like this rule change. The second one here is the NFL has passed a rule stating that the teams on game day can have a third quarterback as an active player on the game day roster. If you remember from previous years, they always have an inactive list on game days. So X number of guys are not able to dress for the game, usually 6 or 7 guys. This is going to be one more player who's able to be dressed for the game, assuming that it's a quarterback and not count against the total number. So that's good. That should help with situations like what San Francisco ran into last year, not having enough healthy quarterbacks. Yeah. So that's a good move. It's a good move. This is a good reactionary move to that, to help try to prevent this from happening again in the future and get better football out there. We don't want to see wide receivers and running backs pretending to be quarterbacks. Playoffs.
No.
But yeah, and what Denver went through a couple years ago with COVID when they had a wide receiver starting at quarterback, and just, you don't want to have to do any of this nonsense. So hopefully that's the end of that. We don't see any more of that and get a little bit better quality football players on the field at the quarterback position.
Absolutely. So I know we didn't mention at the beginning of the show, but we are going to go to the second part of our 3-part series going over the AFC North division rival drafts. We are going to go over the Cincinnati Bengals. We did the Ravens last week. If you want to go get a breakdown of the Ravens draft and how we think they did and how we think their players will fare against us in the future, positive or negative, go back, take a look at that. But we're now going to go over the Cincinnati Bengals draft picks by round in 2023. James?
Yeah, so their first and number 28 overall, they went with edge Miles Murphy, who's going to be a day one starter for them. Outside linebacker, defensive end, whatever you want to call it in their system. If they're a base 4-3, he will be a defensive end. Opposite of, is it Hendrickson they've got there? They've got a really good pass rusher.
Yeah, it's Trey. I believe it's Trey Hendrickson, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So
Um,
I'm sure they'll line him up on the opposite side of Trey Hendrickson, and could be a formidable group, man, because that is a highly skilled edge rusher. So now you're talking about two guys. Thank God Pittsburgh has two good offensive tackles now.
yeah, right. Could have easily been a nightmare for Pittsburgh, depending on
Yeah,
how
yeah.
they played it. But Murphy did accumulate 17 and a half sacks and 35 tackles for loss in his final 2 seasons of high school, which is wild. Wild stats for some high school football. And then obviously the Clemson, he had 14 and a half tackles for loss, 8 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 pass deflections in, I believe, which was his junior year. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, probably his junior year. Yeah,
Yeah.
most of these guys are juniors in the first round.
Yep. So 6'5", 258, 33 and 3/4 inch long arms, 8.5 inch long hand or large hands. They're pretty decent hands. They're like okay.
I feel like that's kind of small.
It's well, you gotta imagine. I can't imagine.
That's like Kenny Pickett size, man, and everybody was talking about his hands being small.
Yeah, but I feel like he's. Yeah, you're right. Never mind.
I'm just saying.
He's just gonna get bullied. I don't know. Do you have numbers on him from the combine?
No, I just know that he was a pretty talented player. Honestly, I'm ready to move on to the next one.
Let's talk about it.
I don't think we need to talk about his 40 or anything like that. Second round, they went with a corner out of Michigan, DJ Turner, a smaller corner, only about 178 pounds, but the fastest one in the entire combine, ran a 4.2640. So you are talking about a guy highly athletic, just a little smaller dude. I mean, his size, honestly. You look at it, I want to say he was like 5'10", along with that 178. It kind of looks a little bit more like a slot corner from the size profile of him. But that speed, his ability to jump, 40-yard dash, and vertical and all that is what you expect out of a number one outside corner. So it's going to be interesting to see where they play him. If they play him in the slot, you might get kind of beat up with these bigger slot guys and having to tackle tight ends and running backs. That might not go so well for him. That would be something I'll be interested in seeing, that's for sure.
Yeah, the next guy on the list, Jordan Battle, safety that me and you mocked a lot from Alabama. Very, very sought after safety in my personal opinion. 6'1", 209 pounds, 32-inch long arms, 8.5-inch long hands. They were small, in case you were wondering.
Yeah. I mean, that's whatever for a safety, right?
Yeah, I mean, you just got to be able to catch the ball. It's more about your ability to what you do with the hands than anything else. But again, this is the guy that's going to come in, and you got to think they were potentially losing both their starting safeties, if I'm not mistaken.
And did. Yeah, they
So-
lost them both.
So this is huge for their continuation as one of the NFL's top teams right now with the way their offense is going with Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, all these guys that they brought in that are doing very well. And so Jordan Battle has the chance to probably day one starter, which is crazy high value for them in the third round.
He'll start with Dax Hill back there, the rookie last year out of Michigan, who was a pretty athletic, more of a cover guy, in Jordan Battle, more of a hitter, strong safety kind of guy. So this should be their starting safety duo for the next few years. I think that's good value for them in the third round. This is not an elite athlete by any means, not a super fast dude, but at least he's somebody with some good pedigree. He knows what he's doing out there. So good pick for them and looking for somebody who's not going to be scared of the level of competition. If you're playing at Alabama, that's about as close to the pros as you're going to get that in Georgia. So that gives him a chance of stepping in and not looking like a fool day one. Speaking of people that make people look like fools, if you remember a few weeks ago, we were talking about there was a post going around about Joey Porter Jr. and all the receptions he gave up week one against Purdue. That stat was actually Charlie Jones, the 4th round pick of the Bengals. It was his stat line from that game. Again, Joey Porter Jr. had 6 pass breakups in that game. So those catches weren't all against Joey Porter Jr. A couple of them, yes. But that showed 14 targets and 12 catches, and he had 6 pass breakups. So obviously not all of them were against him. But Charlie Jones, a pretty athletic dude for a white wide receiver. I want to say he was in the 4.4s on his 40-yard dash.
4.43.
So 4.43, yeah. So that's pretty dang good for a wide receiver, especially one you're getting in the 4th round. So pretty polished receiver, honestly. Kind of upset that they got him. They really didn't need that, those jerks.
No.
This is a good wide receiver right here. So that was a solid pick for them.
Yeah, he had a 69.2 catch rate in his final season at Purdue, which was wild. He also
nice.
Giggity. Anyways, no more comments from me. But he's a good burst, good agility guy. I expect him to be their new kick returner, if I'm being honest, kick and punt return. So expect him to have potentially immediate impact in the special teams. So round 5, another guy that we kind of talked about, not for Pittsburgh drafting, but just for the fact that the player was available. We were mostly talking about his brother. Chase Brown, the running back from Illinois, was drafted in the 5th round by them. Now, Chase Brown was, I believe he was only he was a redshirt senior. But 5'9.5", 209 pounds, 31-inch long arms. I feel like he's going to potentially come out and be a kind of like a 3rd down back for them. You know, you got Joe Mixon. There's no need to send him to the sideline. Although Joe Mixon is very agile as well as out the backfield, but you have something to say.
Is Joe Mixon even going to see the field this year, though, with his off-the-field issues?
That's true.
I think this was a very smart move on their part to get a highly athletic, kind of stout-built dude who can handle the rock. So I think this was a good move on their part. Honestly, was surprised to see Chase Brown go this late because he had a lot of buildup going into the pre-draft process. He did himself a lot of favors going to the combine, performing well. I don't remember if he was at the Senior Bowl or the East-West Shrine game. Whichever one he was at, he did very well in it. Again, Pittsburgh wasn't in the market for running backs, so we weren't talking about him pre-draft-wise. But definitely somebody who could probably hang in the NFL is my guess.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he steals the starting job because they lost their backup running back too. That big dude with the crazy beard, I don't even remember, but he left town. He's got a brother in the league too, so there's 2 guys with that last name in the league.
I don't remember.
But he was a really thickly dense built dude, and he's out now. So day 1, Chase Brown is probably your number 2 running back, and if Joe Mixon's legal issues off the field become enough that he is not allowed to play on the field, then Chase Brown could end up starting for them. So you're talking about some pretty serious contribution from the first 5 picks of the Cincinnati Bengals, or at least the possibility of that being there.
Yeah.
6th round, Cody, you want to go for Andre's last name here? Or you pull it off.
6th round was Andre Iosivas.
That's close. Yosevich.
Anyways, this guy is from Hawaii. Another wide receiver that they did not need to draft, quite frankly. Went to Princeton. During his senior or second year at Princeton, he finally saw action after not really appearing in any games. He appeared 9 games in his second year, catching 18 passes for 263 yards and 4 touchdowns, which was honestly pretty productive out of a guy his first time on the field. But again, the biggest thing here, 4.4 340 again. Another fast guy that they don't freaking need. I mean, they could come out in a 5 or 4 wide receiver set with a tight end, and mismatches are all over the place. It's not going to be a good look if Pittsburgh gets caught with some of these guys. And I know we talk about the release of Ahkello Witherspoon. This could play a factor in some of this stuff. Not that Ahkello Witherspoon could keep up with these guys, but it's a matter of his ability to know positioning and stuff like that. His NFL experience might have played a factor in some of these games and some of these matchups if they play these guys and if they all make the team. It's going to be crazy to watch these guys run down the field.
Yeah, so it's going to be some depth there, some highly athletic depth at the wide receiver position for Cincinnati. Kind of makes you wonder, is there going to be something where maybe they move on from somebody? Obviously, they're going to hang on to Jamar Chase, but the number 2 wide receiver, maybe he doesn't get that contract extension after his rookie deal's up. Maybe one of these 2 guys ends up being the future wide receiver too. Who knows? In the 6th round, their second pick, they went back to Michigan and grabbed the punter, Brad Robbins. I'm not going to waste a bunch of time, but if they took him in the 6th round, that means he's probably a pretty good punter. So a new starting punter for Cincinnati, because you don't draft a punter in the 6th round unless you're going to start him.
Exactly. And then the last pick they had in the 7th round, pick 246 overall, they went cornerback again for the second time in the draft, very similar to Pittsburgh. And they drafted a guy by the name of DJ Ivy. Now, DJ Ivy, I don't have many numbers on here for him, unfortunately.
No, there's like nothing on him. So not a lot to be said about DJ Ivy. If you went to Miami, that's usually a good sign for athleticism. But I don't have any really important groundbreaking notes on him. And again, 7th round pick, so you don't really expect a lot out of those dudes. But I want to say, like, overall, I think Cincinnati had a pretty good draft class here, honestly. I like this class better than what we saw last week's with the Baltimore Ravens draft class. I think there's a lot of potential, year one starters or impact players. And this could end up being a nice class for them. I don't see anything that really sticks out as a huge sore thumb other than the size of DJ Turner.
Yeah.
If they play him outside, I don't know how he's going to match up against a guy like George Pickens, but he probably matches up really well against somebody like Deontay Johnson.
Deontay Johnson matches up well against himself because he just does it to himself. But Ivy did run a 4.46 40 with a 1.59 split, and then also had a 39-inch vert and 10.6 on the broad jump with 12 reps on the bench, just to kind of put.
How big is he?
He is approximately 6'1", 195.
Okay, that's good size.
So,
sounds like Artie Burns.
Hopefully, he plays like him too. With that being said, that is going to wrap up this episode. That's all we had to talk about today. Again, next week we will be going over the Browns draft, so keep an eye on that.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure to like and follow on all the social media platforms. We can't thank you guys enough. Again. Make sure you guys give those 5-star reviews. It makes James very happy. He gets all excited. He gets, overjoyed is the term that I will use. So again, make sure you guys like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Subscribe and ring the bell. Go out, find yourself a Bass Pro Shops. Try on some clothes. Have a great weekend. I don't know. I just went there this weekend. I'm just trying to share some love. And again, we can't thank you guys enough. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.